Hey, Michael Anthony here, and you and I are both checking out the Jeremy White podcast. Listen to it.
All right, there we go. My next guest is a legendary bass player. Actually, I'm not going to fangirl, but he's my favorite bass player of all time. Brand new record came out January 8th. It's called Lockdown 2020. Sammy Hagar on the circle. Michael Anthony.
There you go. Now that's the way to be introduced. Now you make me feel good right off the bat. How you doing, Jeremy?
Usually I'd say my next guest needs no introduction, but I had to do that. I mean, come on. Man, first of all, I just want to say it's very early, like you said. So, we'll keep it light. We'll keep it fun.
No, it's not early. Gee, it's 10 o'clock here.
10 o'clock. Yeah,
On
it's
the
1
West
o'clock
Coast
over
here.
here. I'm in Montreal, so, it's good.
All right.
So, first of all, I just want to say, my condolences on the loss of your old pal, Edward Van Halen. Just crazy. It's my favorite band of all time. I got the shirt and everything, and it's just crazy.
Yeah, we were all kind of, I was just as surprised as everybody else because I knew that he was ill, but not really to what extent. And he was very private about it, and I didn't, we just kind of let him have his privacy. But yeah, we were very shocked when we heard about it.
Yeah, it's just nuts. I wanted to talk to you. Obviously we'll talk about Lockdown 2020. I don't know how much time we have, so I want to get through as much of this as I can because this is cool. Do you have another interview right after?
I do, but I don't know if somebody will cut in or if they'll just have to wait. I don't know.
They'll text you. Okay,
Yeah.
so first thing I want to know, I got these two records right here. All right, I got
Ah.
Balance. Boom. For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. Now, you worked with two of my favorite producers of all time on this record. You got Andy Johns and you got the late, great Bruce Fairburn.
Mm-hmm.
And I really felt that your performance was really highlighted on those records because it was the first time, aside from the first six records, where you actually felt and heard the bass. And right? Am I
Yeah,
wrong in saying that?
actually, it was actually for Lawful Carnal Knowledge was the first time. And Andy Johns, God bless that guy, I loved him to death. And he was a bass player too,
Mm-hmm.
but he really, he wanted to hear the bass. He was one of those guys that likes to hear and feel the bass. And so I was like, oh, my man, and it was great. We had a great time recording that, and of course, Bruce, what a great guy he was too. We had a lot of fun recording with him too.
What was the biggest difference between working with Andy and Bruce?
Uh, Andy, I think, was a little bit more of a guy that would be right out there in the studio with you. He didn't just sit back behind the board. Not to say that Bruce was just sitting there and letting everybody else do the work,
Mm-hmm.
but Andy would be right out there in the studio with us. Actually, like a fifth member of the band,
Wow.
and was right down in the trenches with us. And it was great because he'd always, me especially, go. He's always suggesting little things for me to play, and I go, Andy, you want to play bass on this song? I know you do.
If you say that, imagine did he ever just grab the bass and play a part or
No, he didn't.
no?
I
Okay.
don't know. I did give him one of my basses though during one of our sessions though, because we worked on it with Van Halen, then we also worked on him with Chickenfoot also later
Right.
on.
Yeah, and he did right here, right now too, didn't he? Did he mix that? Yeah, the
Uh,
live record.
yeah, he did. He had a little bit to do on that too.
Yeah. And then, when you work with Bruce Fairburn on this record, I saw an interview with Ed where Ed kind of said, working with this guy, he's worked with all these great, amazing artists, and I don't want him to think I'm just, all talk. I felt nervous and I had to
Uh,
elevate my game a little bit. Did you feel that way working with Bruce Fairburn at all?
No, not really. I mean, Bruce was very relaxed and very easy to work with, and he really let us just uh, he didn't try to. He was one of the guys that didn't try to like make a sound one way or another, whatever. And he just totally let us be who we are, and sound the way we do. And I had a lot of fun with Bruce. He was great.
But what is it? How does a producer like that? Like, what does he bring to the table? Because I mean, you'd work with Ted Templeman, and then you work with Mick Jones and Don
Mhm.
Landry and all these guys. But then you go from Andy, and then you work with Bruce, who did the Slippery When Wets and the Pumps and all that stuff. What does he bring to the table, and how does he elevate your performance?
Uh, a producer can be everything from just a babysitter to try to keep everybody from fighting to trying to actually write the songs for you when you're in the studio.
Hmm.
And you know, in the beginning, we always wanted a producer just to bring out the Van Halen sound. You know, we just wanted you know, somebody to capture how we sounded when we played live.
Mm.
And after a while, you know, it was kind of like you record with a certain producer for a while, like we did with Ted Templeman. And it wasn't that we were dissatisfied at any point along the way with how Ted was, you know, how we were working with him, whatever. But it was just at one point we felt that it was time to just see what another producer, how they would capture us, you know. And
Mhm.
so when we use different producers, that's basically all it was. It wasn't like, oh my God, this guy's terrible to work with, because we always made sure that we were going to have a good time with the guy in the studio before he even walked in the studio with us, you
Right.
know.
He had to be a good hang at least.
Exactly, you know, and in the early days, that was an important part of it, because boy, we, you know, we
Did a
were,
lot of hanging.
yeah, we did a lot of hanging, but you know, so each guy just brought his own personality to the table, and we just kind of let them do that, and nobody really controlled the band. Of course, like, you know, Bruce Fairburn, and you know, a lot of them, they make suggestions, especially like Ted Templin in the early days, because if we were left totally to our own devices, each song would have been like 10 minutes long, because
Mm.
every song started out with a long guitar intro, every single song that we had. And then it'd be like this long instrumental thing, and then the vocals would come in, and it's like, no, 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 guys, let's just cut this part a little bit shorter and go right into the vocals and whatever. So, you know, they kind of help, you know, piece the things together and put this part here and whatever. But you know, and uh, everybody would make certain musical suggestions as far as try doing this or that, but no one really said, you know, they didn't try to steer us into doing what they wanted us to do. You know, they always
Mm.
let us do our thing.
Right. And it's interesting because, you know, even if you go back and listen to the record like "Oh You Wait One Two," when I say, you know, the bass is like almost like non-existent on there. When records like Hysteria are coming out around that time and all these major
Mhm.
selling records, you know, why did you allow that to happen?
You know, it was just, you know, I really don't know. You know, it was just uh, one thing that's kind of tough is that Eddie's tonal range is so broad, and Alex's drums are so big that a lot of times, and this would carry on to the live show too. A lot of times, it's kind of difficult to get the bass tucked in where it sounds great and works with everything.
Hmm.
And you know, in the early days with Ted Templin, for example, Don Landy, who was his engineer and had worked with him or whatever. I mean, I listened to a lot of the stuff that he had done, you know, like Linda Ronstadt, Doobie Brothers, bands like that,
Hmm.
where the bass is there, but it's not there. You can feel it, you can tell the notes are moving or whatever, but it's not really a prominent thing. And I know on the early records that there was a big focus on Ed and, you know, what he was doing. So, you know, it was like, you know, I just kind of did my thing or whatever. And it wasn't really until uh, Andy Johns that you mentioned that, you know, he said, hey, you know, I want a real meaty, beefy, big bass sound, you know, and I was like, all right, my man, you know, and went for it. But
Like finally.
you know, certain things. I mean, there's a lot of songs that we did where in the studio where the demos that we did, I thought had a little more of an edge to them than
Hmm.
how it ended up on the record. And you know, whether that's just the producer's influence on that part of it or what, I don't know. But
Nice. Do you you know, do you and Sam have any idea about like if these records are ever going to be remastered, remixed, maybe put out in a box set with some, you know, demos and stuff? Because these really are the only records that are neglected in the catalog for the last 20
mhm.
years for whatever they were personal reasons. But it's like, you know, for the fans, everybody's just so thirsty for, you know, a remastered For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge or a remastered Oh You Wait One Two. You know, do you have any info on that? Like if something like that is in the works with Warner or Rhino or
You know, I know Warner has brought up the question, would we like to do that, you know, as far as like a box set. You know, obviously it all happens after Eddie passed, you know, and then it's
yeah.
like, hey, let's cash in on this and that or whatever, which, you know, I don't want any part of that type of, you know,
No,
going in that
exactly.
direction. But I know there has been some talk
Hmm.
uh about doing a box set and redoing some stuff, but I think it's kind of in the early works and nobody's really, you know, talked that much about it yet. But I'm sure, and I also hope that will happen.
Yeah, because I mean, if we could get a remixed OU812 for 2021 or 2022, that would be like, it'd be incredible.
Yeah,
Feel the bass, you know. That's it.
yeah. I'll go in and I'll reamp the bass. Man, that
Well,
I'll give that sucker some
it's like, look,
punch.
David Coverdale from Whitesnake, he's taking all this old school, all the records, and they're going in and reimagining them. You know, taking the original guitar parts and re-EQing and compressing and just properly remixing
Yeah.
them and to give them all a consistent sound. And I think it would do incredible business if you guys did it. So,
Right, right, yeah. Of course, it's tough with Ed not being here to be able to go in and, as far
yeah,
as doing anything with the guitar, which you really don't need to because,
no,
his guitar
leave it.
sound is always incredible.
Yeah,
But, I'm sure at some point, we'll get together possibly with Alex and maybe Ed's son Wolfgang and do something like that. I think it'd be a great thing to do.
and it's really cool because just following Wolf on social and stuff like that, seeing the fact that Ed was excited about the idea of the kitchen sink tour and everything.
Mhm.
It's just a real shame that it didn't happen. Do you miss playing those old songs like Unchained and all the stuff from Fair Warning and the first record? And do you
Yeah,
miss
I
that
do.
high part running with the devil? And
I do. When I practice at home, a lot of times I'll get my iPod out, or I'll put on some of the old stuff and just jam to it at home. And of course, with Sammy, we do as much of it as we can. Of course, Sammy likes to lean a little bit more towards the stuff that he was involved with.
yeah.
But we also have been talking about maybe in the future here when we go back out on tour, doing some of the older stuff and maybe me singing a couple of them.
But
So
if I went to a circle show and you busted out "Somebody Get Me a Doctor," I'd be like, "Oh my god!"
yeah, I mean, I can't, and I think Sam's really kind of opening up to that, whereas like in the past, him and Dave, they're more like, Dave wants to do his stuff,
Yeah.
Sam wants to do his stuff, and whatever. But
Yeah, but you
you
guys are
know,
at that point. You just do what you want to have fun.
I want to do it for the fans, because there's a lot of great music from all eras of the band, and it's a shame if we don't go out there and play it. I'm not, I really don't want to go out there and just play the Sammy Hagar era stuff.
Hmm.
If we can dig back into the other stuff, like you said, like Unchained or Panama or Somebody Get Me a Doctor or something like that.
Yeah. Hell, bust out the full bug. Why not?
Hey, I'm all for it, man.
Let me ask you this. Did you know that Dave is using your original backing vocals live?
No, I didn't. Are you
So
talking about are you talking about on his latest tour when he was opening up for Kiss before
opening
the
up for
pandemic?
Kiss, yeah, me and Mitch LaFon, we went to see Kiss twice, and we saw Dave open. And the band is used. They're playing the tracks, and they're using the studio backing vocals live. So it was almost like as if you were there.
Really? Now are his guys actually going up to the mics and pretending to sing, or are they just coming out of nowhere?
No, they're walking up to sing, but that's the thing. All of a sudden, it's big freaking backing vocals, and it's the original record backing vocals. So it's interesting you didn't know about that.
No, I didn't even know about that. I need to look Dave up and hit him up for a little bit of, a little compensation, man, if he's going to be using my.
Yeah, I mean, so that's interesting. Was there ever any talk, maybe you and Dave getting back together? Because I mean, he's already using your vocals live. I mean, make a couple of cameos, maybe when touring gets back up and
You
running.
know, did his residency stuff at the in Las Vegas out here.
Yeah,
Of course, it turned out where I couldn't do it anyway. I think Sammy, we had something going on with the circle, but I was actually going to show up and see about going up on stage and jamming with Dave, because I've got no beef with any of the guys about any of that stuff, and
yeah.
at this point in the career and in my life, it's like, hey, I'll play it all. But I mean, I'm sure if it came up, if it was the right situation, let it happen.
Do it. Before we wrap up, real quick, have you read any of the recent Van Halen books that have come out in the last couple of years, like Van Halen Rising or the Noel Monk book?
I did. I've read most of the Noel Monk book, which Noel was very kind to me in that book. I actually hadn't had been in touch with Noel for years, and when I found out that book was happening, I actually did kind of look him up and touched base with him, and the Van Halen Rising. That was Greg Renoff, I believe, right?
Yeah, Greg Roth,
Yeah,
good buddy of
Greg.
mine.
Actually, I was the only guy from the band that interviewed with Greg for that. None of the other guys wanted to interview for it, and you know, I mean, that's fine if you don't want to. I don't understand why they wouldn't want to. And I thought Greg's book was very well written. I thought Greg did a really good job on that one.
Yeah. Yeah, and in Noel's book, there's a lot of stuff in there, especially around like the 1984 tour, like
Mhm.
how much of that stuff is legit, really?
That Noel sang.
Yeah.
He's glamorizing and sensationalizing a lot of it.
Mm.
I think it's uh, we were a well-oiled machine at that point, and I think Noel was having more fun going after the bootleggers during that time. When a lot of the T-shirt guys, that was a time when they would, you'd go one or two blocks from the venue in all directions, and everybody be out there selling their own version of the Van Halen T-shirt, and he'd be out there with his off-duty cops just busting heads. That's what Noel. That's what Noel. That's what his thing. We said, okay, Noel, you go out and do that, and we'll play music.
Yeah. What one last question for you. And this
Huh?
is something that I've always wondered. On the 1984 tour, at the beginning of shows, now it's infamous. You watch like the bootleg of the 1984 show at the Montreal Forum. Right up the top, there's an announcer going, "Hello, Montreal!"
Mhm.
Like the big announcement. Who was that guy making the announcement?
For the longest time, it was a guy by the name of Rudy Laren, who was
Ed's guitar tech.
he was the Ed's tech. In fact, he started doing stuff for us way back in the days before we were signed, when we were just playing parties. And he was just a friend. He'd help out and move some equipment around for a case of beer or something like that, and
Right.
then eventually became Ed's tech and learned how to learned about guitar while he was doing it. But he had the voice. Yeah, he had the voice. He was the guy that would introduce us before every gig.
Yeah. Even when the your live record came out a couple of years ago with the Circle, there's the announcer right off the top on that.
uh,
Oh, is that him or is that somebody else?
no, that's somebody else. That was a guy by I forget who that was. That was one of the guys on our crew. But yeah, I don't know why we felt that we have to. I
I
always kind
love
of liked it, like seeing the Stones when they. What tour was that when they came out? They just all of a sudden, boom! They just walked out on stage and started playing.
right. Whereas,
I kind of like that kind of intro myself. Just
just walk out.
everybody throws the popcorn up and they running from the hot dog stands, going, "Oh my God, they're coming!"
But hey, that classic announcement, I mean, it's iconic at
It
this
is.
point.
It is. It's kind of like the boxing night thing.
Yeah. No, I love, yeah, exactly. If you hear you hear the Fink announcing Hulk Hogan, you're running back to that seat.
Exactly.
I love it, man. Well, we're running out of time here. So listen, I just want to say thanks so much. Lockdown 2020 available now wherever music is sold. What's the word, when touring gets back? Are we going to see the White Snake stuff, rebooked and everything? Are we going to get like a
Yeah,
Circle?
we're gonna try to do that. We're still in touch with them and with a couple other bands. I don't want to say anything right now, but of course, it's kind of tough for 2020 now as far as planning a big tour, because
Yeah.
let's face it, if anything was happening this summer with a lot of bands, everything's already the production's going, tickets are already being sold, and so I think as things open up, what we're going to try to do is, even if it's some one-off type shows, we just like to get out there and maybe pick a few shows, like maybe a Hard Rock hotel somewhere, or something like that, before we can jump back into the full thing. But our manager is working on it, and believe me, we'll put together something really nice.
Yeah. Well, listen, if the Circle's playing, I am there. So we're good.
Well, and hopefully we'll be there.
All right. Well, Michael Anthony, you've said it all. This is great. Thanks so much. Lifelong fan. And, thanks so much. It was great to meet you.
Great talking to you, Jeremy. And I can't wait to get out there. And when we're back out playing, man, we'll be there, definitely.
All right, man. Cheers. We'll do this again sometime. Maybe we'll get a little bit more time next time.
Yeah. Yeah. Good talking to you, though, man. Can't wait to, see you. You have to come out to the show, man, if we're up that way.
I'd love that. That'd be awesome. We'll do it in person. We'll have a
Okay,
couple of
yeah,
shots and shoot the shit.
there you go. That's the way to do it.
All right, man. We'll see you later.
Okay. Take care, Jeremy.